All right, a percent change. Expresses an amount of change as a percent of the original amount. Let's see. If the new amount is greater than the original amount, okay. If the new amount is greater than the original amount, there is percent increase. And if the new amount I got an extra word in there, don't I? Than. If the new amount is greater than. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. If the new amount is greater than the original amount, there is percent increase. And if the new amount is less than the original, there is percent decrease. A percent change expresses an amount of change as a percent of the original amount. If the new amount is greater than the original amount, there is percent increase. And if the new amount is less than the original amount, there is percent decrease. So percent of change equals the amount of change divided by the original amount. And that's going to have to get multiplied by 100, isn't it, to give you percent. I wonder why they don't list that in here. Percent change is the ratio of the amount of change to the original amount. And for it to be a percent, we got to multiply it by 100. And then we'll just go times 100. And that will list it as a true percentage. Make sure you do this first, though. Make sure you divide that first. The amount of change divided by the original amount. Boy, this lesson is at the end of a chapter, and it's a really short lesson, so you're going to have a chance today and maybe do some extended review while you're in class. You know what I mean? Be able to go back and look over Monday's notes, Tuesday's notes. Make sure you're ready for, you get my drift? Maybe some of you that you're missing an assignment for this week, you could get that done today too. So, because I'm looking in this book and when it goes right to the examples and then there's nothing else to cover, that's a short lesson. And it's the last lesson of this chapter, so y'all wouldn't want to start a new chapter on a Wednesday, right? That's just not fair to you guys. I try to be fair, don't I, Antoinette? Thank you. Yeah. It's like Patrick Swayze would say, I'll be fair until it's time to not be fair. You ever seen that movie, Roadhouse? Put that on your list. Watch the movie Roadhouse. It's a classic. It's about a bouncer. Teal? Kira, you seen it? Isn't that a great movie? Oh my goodness. My wife has watched it like, I don't know. If she sees it on TV, she's watching it. He says in the movie to his other bouncers, his words to them are, be nice. And they're like, well, what if the guy is calling me names and throws a drink at me? Be nice. Your job is to be nice. It's my job to not be nice. Because he's in charge of all the bouncers. And then there's some times he gets not nice. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. Put it on your list. Movies to watch. You guys are movie watchers, aren't you? You guys watch movies? No? Videos? Shows? Or you just play video games? No? YouTube? What'd you say? You watch TV? Netflix? Prime Video? Don't have it? Netflix? Netflix, Zulu, Disney Plus. There you go. Isn't that a package? Okay. Yeah, we went to the old YouTube TV about a year ago. Got rid of AT&T. They're too expensive. I hate those people. Your bill will go from $129 a month, and then all of a sudden you get a bill for $300, and you call them, and after you're on hold for an hour and a half, oh, we're sorry, your promotional period expired. A warning would have been nice. Your promotional period is going to expire in 30 days, and your cable television bill will triple. Right? So finally I pulled the trigger and fired them. Said, cancel my service. Usually when you call them and you say, I want to cancel my service, could you please hold for 1 second? I'd like you to speak to my supervisor. Then the supervisor comes on and they offer you all these kind of specials and they get your bill back down to where it used to be. Right? Until you've just had enough of AT&T and then you just, nope, I don't want to speak to your supervisor. Tell me where to send my equipment. And then you got to take your equipment to the UPS store. But they box it for you. They put the label on it, no charge. And then I took all my stuff to the UPS store, and the guy working at the UPS store, he said, man, he goes, AT&T must have pissed a bunch of people off because I've been packaging up these boxes and remotes all weekend. I guess a bunch of people's promotion expired at the same time. Yeah. Yeah, would have liked to have figured the percent of change on my bill. You know, you can probably live with like a 10% change, right? You know, if your bill doubles, that's 100% change, isn't it? All right. So like a 10% change, it's not that big of a deal. You know, if your bill's $20 a month and it increases $2, that's a 10% change. You're like, fine, whatever. Okay, I understand. But when it doubles or triples, it's like, what the heck is going on? I'm not paying that, you know? And if you're ever in business and it comes time to raise your prices, that's a big factor. You know what I mean? Like, we're in the lawn business. Me and my son are partners in a lawn business. And he's always like, raise everybody's price. I said, there's a real fine line in there between raising people's price, because what's going to happen when you raise prices arbitrarily? What's that? People could leave, right? So you try to find the right percent to increase it so that they don't leave. You want to maximize your percent of change in their price so that you maximize the new amount coming in without doing any more work, but you also minimize the risk of losing the customers. And I don't know what that number is yet. You know what I'm saying? We tinker with it every month. What's that? One more time. It depends. It's all based on the size of the yard. So our minimum price is $69 a month, but you get a lot for that. I mean, we mow it, edge it, weed eat it, and blow it every week all summer, and then every 2 weeks in the winter. So yeah. So now that's based on, you know, if you type in any address, there's a website, Brevard County Property Appraisers Office, bcpao.org or whatever. You go to that website, you type in any address in Brevard County, and it'll pull up who owns it. It'll pull up all kinds of information on it, but it'll pull up who owns it, and it'll pull up the size of the piece of property. So anything under 0.23 of an acre, we charge $69 a month, because that's like a normal house in Croton Park or Longwood or Kings Mill or something like that. And then as the lot sizes increase, we have to increase, because it just takes more time to do the property. So we're constantly battling with, we know that we're kind of inexpensive compared to other companies, but you know, how much do you increase? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, the thing you're explaining, we have it out in my neighborhood, which laid out, you got, on my side, there's built 88, so all the houses a little shorter, and then right across the street is all big lots.
Yep.
Because of the one next, because we have the one next to it, they had a same size property as the one across the house. Now we have weird way the neighborhood's laid out.
Yeah, and I had to.
One person on one side of the street is paying 69 cents, you guys, and then the opposite side is paying a lot more.
Paying 90. Yeah. And that's what that's my job. One of my jobs in the business is when someone calls and they're like, yeah, can I get a price on lawn service? What's your address? And then sometimes they get weirded out. They're like, well, you don't need to be coming over here to look at my yard. I'm like, no, I don't. I just need your address so I can figure out how big it is. Because a lot of times they'll go by neighborhood. Some of these neighborhoods you go into, those corner lots, they're huge.
Yeah.
They got freaking sidewalks that go forever. And it's like, hey, you ever edge them? You got to edge both sides of that sidewalk and the curb, and then you got to blow it all. It's like, yeah, you got to charge them more.
Yeah.
So that percent change is a big deal. We haven't come up with the magic number yet, because I'm afraid of losing customers. So let's yeah, I guess I could talk about that all day. So here we go. Finding percent of change. God, in the practice, they just give you the amounts, original amount, new amount. Okay, so let's do one way. We got to figure this out. Let's say that the coat is on sale, original price. The original price of the coat is $82. Sale price is $74.50. What is the discount expressed, or what is the percent of change? What is the percent of change? So we need the amount of change, and then we're going to divide it by the original amount. So here's our original. So in order to find this amount of change, we take the larger of the two numbers. Now look, you're going to have it when the price goes up, and you're going to have it when the price goes down. So obviously you always want to take your larger number and subtract the smaller number. You don't want a negative in the numerator. You're not going to have a negative. You don't have negative percents of change. All right. What you have is a percent increase or a percent decrease. That's how it works. These two numbers, numerator and denominator, always have to be positive. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this 82 and we're going to subtract the 74.50. And that's probably like 750. 82 minus 74.5. That's 750. All right, that's your amount of change. This is your amount of change. That's going to become your numerator. You're going to divide it by your original amount, which is in blue, your $82. All right, and then you're going to take that, and if you multiply that by 100, or you guys can just push the percent button on your calculator. I think you got one. Maybe you don't. Just push times 100. So if we take 7.5 divided by 82, push equals, you get a 0.09. You push times 100, and you get 9.15. So 9.15%. Now, is this a percent increase or decrease? Good. The price went down, right? So it's a decrease means to go down. Decrease. Questions? All right, so let's say a retailer come on. This is going to say buys, B-U-Y, buys guitars for 295 bones. That's another word for dollars. Store sells. Wow. They sell them for, how much they sell them for? Let's see, $3.40. Ooh, God, you're going out of business. The store sells them for $340. What is the percent of change? All right, so now our price is going up. All right, so what we're going to do to find this amount of change, we're going to take the larger amount. We're going to take the 340. We're going to subtract 295. 340 minus 295. $45. That's our amount of change. Make sure it's larger minus smaller number. All right, we're going to divide that by the original amount. All right, the original amount here. The original amount is what they paid for him, the $295. Okay, they paid the $295 before they sold it. So that's your $295. We're going to times that by 100. That's going to be our percent of change. So 45 divided by 295 times 100. 15.25. Percent increase. Now, I don't know how many of you are interested in business as a future. All right. But let me just tell you from experience, if you're going to buy something for $295 out of your pocket, and then you're going to sell it for $340, you're not going to be in business very long, are you? Well, they make $45 on one guitar. If you're running a retail store, that ain't paying your rent. That's why retail is like disappearing. Nobody wants to be in retail anymore because they can open an online store. All right? And your website's way cheaper than the rent and the electricity and the employees that got to work in your store. Now, maybe that's an okay markup for an online store, but boy, if I got to spend $295 out of my pocket to make $45, I'm going to find a new product to sell, aren't you, Antoinette? Yeah. If you're going to spend $295 on something, what do you want to sell it for? You know what I mean? What's an acceptable amount of profit to make on the risk of spending the $295? Because if you spend the $295 and nobody buys it, you're out your $295. You know what I mean? I want to make at least $100 if I'm going to spend $295. I mean, me and my son, we went on a streak a couple years ago. It was probably 5 years ago. We were flipping trailers, utility trailers, and we killed it for like a year. And then everybody caught up. Everybody's like, started flipping trailers. We would buy these rusty old crappy trailers for like $500, bring them home. We would spray paint them. We would buy 99-cent cans of flat black spray paint. We would spray paint them. We would spray paint the rims, the outside of the tires. We spray painted the whole trailer, and we would put new lights on them, right? New brake lights and turn signals so the lights worked, and a new harness up front, and we would double what we paid for them. And we'd sell them on Craigslist, and we'd sell them in like 2 days. We were killing it, buying a $400 trailer, sell it for $800, making $400. And you had like maybe $12 in paint, because you could buy a whole box of paint for $12, and that's 12 cans. And then $35 for lights at Walmart. So you got like 400 and another 50. You got 450 into this thing, and you could spray paint it and rewire it in like a couple hours. You turn it back over and sell it for another $400. We killed it for like a year and a half, and then everybody else started doing it, and it was like, oh well, that was fun while it lasted. Then there became a trail. Have you guys ever done anything on Craigslist? You haven't? Oh man, you missed the fun by about 5 years. Let's see. When you got my son graduated in my youngest son graduated in 14. So that was what, 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago. Craigslist was hot back then. There was no marketplace. Craigslist was a place to sell stuff privately, and that's where everybody went. Cars, trucks, boats. People sold clothes, golf clubs, trailers, lawnmowers, anything you wanted to sell. It was like an electronic garage sale. Post an ad on Craigslist. Somebody would call you. Hey, you got a trailer for sale? You put a couple pictures up there. Yeah, they'll come to your house. They buy it, leave. That's it. My son was in he was in 10th grade here at O'Galley. He was flipping trailers on Craigslist. I mean, he's just killing it. He was flipping little dirt bikes, all that kind of stuff. It was hilarious. And then did it for a while, had a good run, and then everybody else started doing it too. Back then, they didn't even have a trailers category on Craigslist. Now it's got its own category. So they wiped us out. Had to cut more grass, quit flipping trailers. It was fun while it lasted, though. Tell me. Look what we were doing. We were buying them for 400, right? And then we were adding about 50 to 75 because we had bought our own welder, right? And we had bought our own metal, some of our own metal. We went down to Don Bell and bought some angle iron and some expanded metal and stuff like that. We had grinders. We could cut metal, so we could fix stuff. So we were buying them for 400, and we were putting like $50 into them. So we had 450 into them, and then we would just take what we bought them for. That was our rule, and we doubled it as our sell price. So like, what's 400 times 2? 800. But we never use 800. All right, we always $795. Okay, there's a mentality in there. There's a pricing mentality that if someone is going to spend $795 and you ask them, what'd you pay for that trailer? Their typical response is going to be $700. What did they really pay for the trailer? They paid $800. In their mind, when they're spending that $795, they're not spending $800. I'm not spending $800 on a trailer. It's too expensive. But they'll spend $795 because when their wife or somebody, when they justify it in their head, they only spent $700. Look at pricing everywhere you go. $39.99, $24.99. It's always just below the next number. They don't round it up to the next whole number. And sometimes there's a penny or 10 cents, or in this case, $5. $795. I sold my boat last year. Or not last year. Yeah, it was in October. But I always price it just below the number that you want. So $795, $895, $899, things like that. So that's what we had. So if you multiply that by 100, what's that equal? 450 divided by 795 times 100. That's 56.6%. It's not bad, huh? Amount of change divided by original amount. So that's the number I like to work towards. If you buy something, you're going to sell it, I like to double it. Now, obviously, you can't do that when you buy a car or a truck. You know, if you think you're going to flip it, you can't do it. You can't make that much money. You can't make that much of a percentage of money. I'll give you your assignment and quit talking so much. I got a lot to say this morning, I guess. Coffee was good. I like talking about that kind of stuff, obviously. Your practice for today is going to be page 148. 7 through 17. Some of you, I've noticed that your work is way neater and more organized looking now than it was when you turned in your first paper. Please continue to do that, okay? Please continue to take pride in what your paper looks like when you turn it in. Neat, organized, everything's lined up. You're not writing like a second grader, okay? Take some pride in what you're turning in. When you put your name on it, all right, that's making a statement about you. Don't make it look like a bunch of scribble scrabble. So page 148, 7 through 17, show all your work. All right, and we're doing our same. We're going in the basket, or we are emailing a picture. That's how we turn it in the basket or email a picture. All right. If you don't have any questions, you guys are excused from this meeting. If I don't hear or see any questions in the next 30 seconds, I'm closing this meeting. One second.